Baik, langsung dimulai saja. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Selamat siang, selamat datang kepada seluruh peserta siang hari ini di webinar series ke-12 KAP MNK. Seperti biasa, hari ini kita selalu didatangkan narasumber dan moderator yang begitu luar biasa, yang expert di bidangnya. Yang hari ini saya nggak usah berlama-lama untuk ini ya, bercuap-cuap, saya langsung aja sampaikan salam sapa saya kepada para peserta hari ini. Di sini ada teman-teman, rekan-rekan, para kolega dari BPK, Inspektorat, dari akademisi, dari praktisi, banyak sekali yang lain. Kita enggak usah berpanjang-panjang, kayaknya kita langsung buka aja, nanti kita serahkan ke Managing Partner KAP MNK, pimpinan KAP MNK untuk membuka acara ini. Monggo Pak Masun langsung saja, karena di sini ada Prof. Olu sudah ready ya, sudah ada, Bu Dian juga sudah ada. Silakan Pak Masun dibuka saja, karena nanti biar langsung ke acara inti. Silakan Pak.
Oke, thank you, terima kasih Bu Rida. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to each and every one of you for being here today at this MNK webinar series. My name is Masun. It is such an honor for me to speak on behalf of MNK and partners as organizer in this agenda. Let me begin by giving you a warm welcome to the whole role of forensic auditor in fraud prevention and detection. Before we get started, I would like to express my appreciation to Professor Dr. Oluwatoyin, Muse Johnson Popoola, Chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Negeri, or ICAN, Malaysia, and District Society, as a guest speaker in this webinar. And Dr. Dian Anita Nuswantara, Academician in Universitas Negeri Surabaya, and Certification Committee in Association of Public Sector Accounting Educators, or APSAE, as moderator in today's webinar. My colleague and friends included Prof. Erlina from Universitas Sumatera Utara, Dr. Johan Arifin from Universitas Islam Indonesia, Mr. Randi Rifki from Association of Certified Fraud Examiner, ACFE Indonesia Chapter, Heri Laksito from Universitas Diponegoro Semarang, Erina from Universitas Erlangga Surabaya, all our colleagues from Indonesian Audit Organization, the Global Assure Network, Dr. Kumalahati, Mr. Eko, and Mr. Nasib Saragi, my colleague and good friend from New Zealand, Miss Vivin Tobasa Edges, my friend from UITM Malaysia and other universities in Malaysia, thank you for coming in our webinars. My partner in MNK Partners included Prof. Nurdiono in Lampung, Dr. Kukuh in Malang, Dwi Ardi in Jogja, Sutaramana in Solo, Iskandar in Samarinda, Quality Assurance Dr. Rida in Surabaya, Yongki Juwarno in Jakarta, all of our lovely participants from BPK, Inspektorat, BPKP, and all, and MNK crew who helped us make this seminar come true. Andre, Umroh, Dewi, we couldn't have done it without you. In today's seminar, we would learn about forensic accounting and audit. In practice, forensic accounting is necessary to prevent fraud and detect it. How to calculate business losses due to fraud, it can also be done with forensic accounting and audit. So, this seminar is very important for us to study together. And Prof. Olo, my good friend, my colleague from Malaysia, is present as a guest speaker who will explain all of it in this webinar. And I hope that this seminar will be add to our insight, especially in the forensic accounting and audit. I need to say that this webinar is the collaboration between MNK Partners, the Institute of Chartered Accountant of Negeri, ICAN, Malaysia and District Society, and the Association of Public Sector Accounting Educators, APSAE. Thanks to Chairman ICAN Malaysia, Prof. Olu, and the entire board of Director Association of Public Sector Accounting Educators, APSAE. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. I need to hand over it to Dr. Rida, our today's MC, to introduce our moderator to all of you. I would like to say once more, on behalf of MNK Partner and APSAE, welcome. It is great to see many of you here. Thank you, and back to Dr. Rida. Thank you.
Greetings in Indonesia, in bahasa Indonesia. Oke, Mak Mangsun ya.
No problem.
Oke. Moderator kita siang ini adalah Ibu Dr. Dian Anita Nuswantara. Beliau adalah seorang dosen dari Universitas Surabaya. Beliau juga sekarang menjabat sebagai Certification Director di APSAE, Association Public Sector Educators. Maaf. Beliau ini banyak sekali pengalaman sekaligus di bidang Tridharma, mulai dari pengajaran, pendidikan, hingga pengabdian masyarakat. Ini banyak sekali jurnal-jurnal yang juga beliau tulis. Beliau hari ini sangat concern pada public sector accounting. Sudah tidak usah berlama-lama ini, saya rasa Bu Dian, monggo, time is yours, please. Thank you, Bu Dian.
Thank you, Bu Rida. Good afternoon, everyone. Selamat siang. Welcome to the webinar. First of all, I would like to thank to Pak Mahsun from MNK Partner, also APSAE and ICAN Malaysia. Please let me introduce. I am Dian. I will lead this webinar from now until about 3 o'clock. Before we proceed our webinar, let me introduce the Honorable Professor Oluwatoyin Muse Johnson Popoola. Professor Olo now serves as lecturer at the University Utara, Malaysia, but as Pak Masun said, he also served as a professional auditor, and now he also become the reviewer of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of Nigeria study packs in 15 subjects. He also a member of the ICAN strategy. So long, if I read all this CV, it shows that he is very talented person. Pak Olo, I know. Hello, Pak Olo.
Yeah, I'm
Professor
here.
Olo, okay. Professor Olo will serve as our speaker today under the title, The Roles of Forensic Auditor in Fraud Prevention and Detection. You will deliver, Prof. Olo, this presentation about 30 to 40 minutes. And you have to remember, I will stop you if you speak more than 40 minutes. Guys, now we listen to Professor Olo. Professor Olo, time is yours.
Thank you.
Do you need to share your presentation?
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they need to allow me in to share.
Pak Umrah, can you make him a co-host? For all participants who have questions during this webinar, during the presentation, you can text in the chat room.
So, good afternoon from here in Malaysia. To the chairman and my friend, Pa Mo Mason, and the chairman of APSAE, and to the moderator, Associate Professor Dian, Anita, and to all of you. I am delighted to be part of you. I'm proud to be here to share. I regard this as a sharing session for those of us in academics and professional. I am both as academician. My Ph.D. is in forensic accounting, and I'm also a certified forensic accountant. So I should be in a position a little bit to share my experience for over 30 years in this area. I shall be going through the outline, which is into concept of forensic accounting, forensic auditing, and fraud. I also learned of some of us that are academicians. So we are backing with some underpinning theories to guide us in fraud prevention and detection. We are going to look at symptoms of fraud and then rules of evidence. Forensic is a little bit different from auditing. because of the law, legal implications to whatever we do, and then the roles of forensic auditor. So let me quickly, I was giving about 40 minutes. So I'll try to work within the 40 minutes. The first thing is, what is forensic? We've been hearing of forensic auditor, forensic doctor. What did they do? It simply means anything that is used or suitable to courts of law or public debate. In essence, whatever action or inaction you are taking that necessarily will lead to court of law or public discussion or debate is forensic. So no doubt we have forensic accountant, forensic auditor, and others. The next one is what is forensic accounting? I have a lot of definitions, but I pick one or two from them and then allow you all to pick whichever way you like. I look at it from the angle of is the use of professional accounting skills in matters involving potential or actual civil or criminal litigation, including but not limited to generally accepted accounting and auditing principles and determination of lost profits, income, assets, damages, evaluation of internal controls, fraud, and any other matter involving accounting expertise in the legal system. The key word is legal system. Whatever we're able to do must be linked to legal system. And then I move to the next one, which is very easy, which I also like, which is my own definition. It was done in 2014. I said forensic accounting is the application of fundamental knowledge. Each of these statements has meanings: fundamental knowledge, enhanced skills, and mindset in the accounting profession to resolve legal issues pertaining to the prevention, detection, and response to fraud. So we're only looking at prevention and detection, but we can also look at response, okay, to fraud. And it entails a process of...
Prof, sorry. Can you make the slideshow for your presentation? Slideshow.
Be slow.
Slideshow.
A little bit slow.
Oh, okay.
Are you saying I should be slow?
No. To running your PPT, your PowerPoint, running the PowerPoint using the slideshow mode.
To continue or?
Yes, just go on. I think it's
Okay.
fine. It's clear enough.
Okay.
Olu, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Could you please to change your presentation to the slideshow, please? It's quite small to see the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Is it okay like this?
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
No problem, my brother. Yeah, mine here, I said, is the application of fundamental knowledge. When you talk of fundamental knowledge, we are looking at issues that relates to laws, courts, and dispute resolution. We are looking at discovery, which is like a pre-trial, depositions, bringing documents together. We are looking to planning and preparation. We are looking into issue of divorce, and others. And then enhance skills and mindset in the accounting profession to resolve legal issues that has to do with fraud in case of prevention and detection, usually end up in court, may or may not end in court. Then that is the second one I want to pick there. And I want to say that forensic is based on legislation, practice, and theory, and the use to which forensic accounting services embrace. So we have so many of these services we render, and some of the services are fraud prevention services, family law, valuation, all these are services. Computer forensic analysis, all these are services we render as a forensic accountant. So I moved to forensic auditing. What is forensic auditing? It is the application of audit principles and procedures. We have the principles, about 5 of them, about 5 principles, and procedures, about 7 of the procedures, to identify and verify evidence to enhance its legal admissibility. Here, most of what you do here is evidence-based. In forensic, is evidence-based, not subjective. You must be objective, and that is what it's all about. We have designation for forensic accountants. Some call them expert accountants, some call them fraud specialists, some forensic auditor. And in this webinar, we are calling it as forensic auditor, but it can be called fraud auditor, fraud investigator, fraud examiner, and risk control manager. So we have a lot of definitions, designations attached to forensic practitioners, those who practice it in various ways. And certification too. You could say my bullet 4 showing you so many of those institutes or professional organizations that issues certification on forensic accounting. And you have the CFF designation, CFE, CFA, CPF, forensic CFIP, CR.FA, CVAs, and CCFAs and CPA. All these are different certifications. After being a member of a professional body, you need to go for forensic tutorials and modules or certification, okay? And then we move into the concept and types of fraud. To me, anything that is done intentionally with the aim of deceiving and cheating people is fraud. That is just the definition. If you take an advantage over any other person through deception, what you have done, committed, is fraud. So fraud is deception that includes 7 elements. A representation about a material point, which is false. It is seen to be false, and intentionally or recklessly so, which is believed, acted upon by the victim, and the victim's damage, that is loss. There's a loss to the victim. That is fraud. So we have types of fraud, about 6 of them. And they are employee embezzlement, vendor fraud, customer fraud, management fraud, which is common, investment scams fraud, and other fraud. However, we normally ask, if any fraud occurs, who is the beneficiary? Who is the perpetrator of the crime? And who is the victim? Because we said a victim rely, believe the information, and acted upon it, and also suffer loss. So we want to know, of all these type of fraud, who is the perpetrator, who is the victim? If we take employee embezzlement, the perpetrator is the employee of an organization. And then who suffers? The victim is the employer who lost. It can be financial or otherwise. Something must have been lost. If it is a vendor fraud, who is the perpetrator? The vendor or the suppliers. Either the suppliers or the vendors. Yes, they are the perpetrator. Who is the victim? The organization, which they supplies to. So if we pick customers too, customer fraud, who is the perpetrator? The customer. And then who is the victim? The organization, and so on. Now, it's important you know all these classes before you can be able to be an investigator or an auditor. What type of fraud? Who is involved? How are they involved? Very, very important. Okay. Next, we move to who commits fraud. Who commits fraud? Yes, to me, anyone can commit fraud. Anyone can commit fraud. And there's no way you can distinguish or separate or identify a fraudster from any other person. We look alike, but that doesn't say you cannot commit a fraud. So individuals involved in fraud are people like you and me. The only difference is because they have compromised their integrity. Once you have lost your integrity, yes, you are not sane. You are no longer normal. You can do anything, then you can't commit a fraud. And then the next question I ask, who is the best position to coin you? Or who is the best position to commit fraud against you? Your parents, your family, or your close friends? Anyone can commit fraud. Anyone. In fact, it is always those whom you trust. They are in the best position to coin you. Those who you trust are easily available to coin you to commit fraud. So in forensic, we don't trust anybody. That's simple. We regard everybody, every other person, a suspect. That is what forensics is all about. Now, I try to look at some underpinning theories for those of us in academics. There are some that conditions under which fraud may occur. What can motivate one to commit fraud? And then we look at the theory of reasoning action, which is essentially or primarily designed with human behaviors in mind. We also look at the theory of planned behavior, and I put the word extended because the first theory of planned behavior is 3, but when it is extended, we add moral obligation to it and become extended version of the theory of planned behavior. It is an offshoot of the theory of reason action, and it is a parsimonious model. Okay, it is very useful to predict dishonest actions. That is the theory of planned behavior. And once you can predict dishonest actions, you are more likely to look into issue of prevention of fraud. And then the theory of fraud triangle was brought in by Donald Cressy in 1950 and 1953. Okay, and she looked at 3 issues: perceived pressure. Okay, some textbooks will tell you pressure, need, or incentives is the same. Okay, the same thing you look at some textbooks: perceived pressure, or need, or incentive. And then the second element is opportunity, perceived opportunity. And the third one is rationalization. After the crisis in 1950 and 1953, Wolf and Hermansen came and said that with all this, something else can still not happen. Something must be involved, and that is the capability. An element of intelligence must be involved. Somebody who has the contact, who has the connection, and therefore we have the element of capability as part of the triangle of fraud diamond. So he's looking at incentive, opportunity, rationalization, and capability. Now, the second one, excuse me, has to do with detection, because the other one is describing conditions under which fraud may occur. But for detection, is describing the action. We are describing the action an individual must perform in order to perpetuate fraud. What do they do? We need to know. It's different from what led to committing fraud. So one theory is the triangle of fraud action theory, which came into effect, is from Kranasha et al. In 2011 and supported by me. And then it represents the documentation of specific actions. We can't see the act it is into three elements. The first element is the act or theft, concealment, number 2, and conversion, number 3. We can see evidence of the act or the theft by looking at what did they use to get the money. Is it by check? Was there any paper? That is an evidence. Whereas for need, pressure, opportunity, and rationalization, there can be a document. We can't say a document, it's just an innate thing. But we know because you are in a position to do one thing or the other. That is why that is not too evidential for use in law court. But for the theory of triangle of fraud action, concealment, we can see where you keep it, and where it is converted for your personal use instead of official use, it can also be located. So we can see the trail of the evidence. And that is why this is more important to us as forensic auditor. The theory of triangle of fraud action. It is mainly for detection. We can't see it. Okay. Next, I came with this theory to look at evaluating the anti-fraud profession's response. You will see that what I call the perpetrators are the fraud diamond, okay, which include the theory of triangle of fraud. You have the pressure opportunity. Why are they perpetrators? Because they're just linking, it's a probability. And that can be done by prevention. We can prevent issues related to opportunity, pressure, capability, and rationalization through what I call controls. Controls are set to work on opportunity, pressure, capability, the elements, the 4 elements here. However, if you are looking at detect, how do we detect? We don't detect with controls, but we detect with procedures. So when you look at prevention and deterrence, we are talking of controls. But when you look at detection, we are looking at the procedures. And the procedures is how we know the steal, through which means, through which method, the money was converted, by what way, where are they, or it was concealed. How do they conceal it? Where are they? And that is crime. Detection is crime. Prevention is not yet a crime because you are trying to look at it in another way. Next, I come with the controls. There are about 8 controls. One is physical control, safeguard control, arithmetic control, prevention control, authorization control, personnel control, management control, organization control, supervision control. We also have segregation of duties control. So those are the 8 controls which we have in preventing fraud. I repeat, the 8 are physical controls, authorization controls, personnel controls, arithmetic control, management control, supervision control, organization control, and segregation of duties control. Okay, and then if we look at the detective controls, you have the independent check, and then documents and records. What is independent check? By independent check, we mean where the job of one person is being checked by another person. That is, you don't start a work and finish it. Okay, you start, somebody else do a control, check, and then pass on another person. That is what we mean by independent check. That is, there is intervals of controls. People are in different stages where they control the transaction. Not that you are the cashier, you are the receiver, you are the payer, you are the banker. No, it has to be segregated. Okay, next, I'm looking at this theory, what constitutes fraud. Okay, when you look at this, you can see the elements of the triangle of fraud action, but if you look carefully at the arrows, you will understand there are 2 big arrows and 2 small arrows. Because we explained earlier that the theory of planned behavior extended, which is attitude towards fraud, subjective norms, perceived behavioral control, and moral obligation has element to do with the influence in engaging in fraud or fraud. Now, the act, the concealment, and the conversion surely is engagement in fraud, and that is fraud. However, when you look at attitude, subjective norms, and moral behavior, they are trying to say you are engaged in fraud, not actually in fraud. Not actually in fraud. The influence in fraud is not as high as the arrows, which has to do with the act or the theft, the concealment, and the conversion. Okay. Okay. And also, how do we know? What do we know what to do? How do we know there's a problem in an organization? We call them that symptoms of fraud. Some people call them red flags. Okay. So we look at the record-related symptoms. We look at independence and competence and oversight. Okay. We also look at the industrial environment and conditions to see if there's anything that is wrong, to be able to see if there's a foul play or something is happening. And then we look at the person-related symptoms. You look at labor turnover, hiring staff, a lot of things. You look low employee morale, compensations. That is on person-related symptoms. We also have weak internal controls. Of course, if there's weak internal controls, there's room for people to commit fraud. Okay, there's room to commit fraud or failure of top management to actively participate in developing and overseeing internal control or overriding of control. Where management override controls, definitely there's a problem. We also have the management style. One man show, putting his family there, and then whatever he says is final. Yes, it's a symptom, that can lead to fraud. We also have accounting practices. Okay, you can see most of the issues there, which is in a bullet form. When there's weak audit trails, there's overly optimistic or inadequate budgets, large or unusual end of year accounting adjustment, and others, it constitutes an accounting practices symptoms. We also look at company's financial condition. What is the condition of the company in terms of product obsolescence, in terms of declining income, in terms of tax problems? Are they paying tax? Why are they not paying tax? All these show that, signals to a forensic auditor that something is wrong somewhere. Now, why do I bring this into it, the rule of evidence? Whatever we do in forensic, like I said, may or may not, but usually end up in court of law. So you need to know when you are gathering your evidence. Yes, one is to plan your investigation. The other one is to plan your evidence. How do you get your evidence? Yes, in audit, you talk of appropriate and sufficient, or what we call reasonable assurance. Yes, but in forensic, no. It is more weighty. You want to know what is admissible. What I'm having, is it admissible in court? Is it competent? Is it relevant? So you need to understand these rules. It's not a matter that I've done my work. No, you need to evaluate your evidence based on the rule of evidence in court. So if it is admissible, you are saying the quality which makes evidence acceptable in court, what makes this evidence worthwhile in court? Relevancy, we are looking at a fact offered as evidence must relate in logical way to the main fact. What we are saying, is it relevant? Is it appropriate? Is it more linked to the fact of this case? It must be relevant. If it's not relevant, it is not going to be useful in the court of law. Competencies, by competency, we are saying evidence that is legally admissible in court. Ordinarily, this will be admissible in court. That is competent. Admission, any statement that is inconsistent with the subject's position at trial. When you make an inconsistent statement, then we will ask, is this admission in court? Okay, and we also have 5 more. Judicial notice. Not everything presented during a trial must be proved. You don't need to prove everything. At times, as an expert witness, you just want the land judge to say that, my lord, I just want to take judicial notice of this statement. Not necessarily to be proved, not necessary. And then you talk of valid confession. This is a narrow form of admission, the statement of a person that is guilty of a crime when you confess. yes, I'm guilty, I did it. Okay, dying declaration. These are presumed to be forthright and honest statements. When someone is about to die, maybe he's in pain or whatever, and he utters some words, whatever that person says at that time, knowing fully well that he's about to die, is always regarded as highly important and admissible. That is a honest statement. Collaboration is required for any admission made after the offense. Somebody to corroborate it. And then this last one, res gestae, is a spontaneous comment made at a time of great emotion or strain. When somebody is in pain or in strain or emotionally attached, whatever he made at that particular point in time may be valid in a court of law, and it is called res gestae. Okay. Now the next one is the proof. What is your proof? Show me your evidence. Show me your proof. Proof is the end result of evidence. This is my evidence. Whatever you have been saying, this is the proof. And then the last one is the standard of proof. There are about 5 standards of proof beyond reasonable doubt. You should, prove your case beyond reasonable doubt, especially in criminal matters. Especially in criminal matters. If it is civil, yes, you can go with preponderance of evidence. Weigh it. Okay, how is this loud? Then clear and convincing evidence is when it is clear to everybody. Probable cause, yes, we can say this is the probable cause of the incident. And then suspicious situation. These are the 5 standards of proof. But usually, whether civil or criminal, most especially criminal, you need to prove your case beyond reasonable doubt. For any other cases, you can rely on number 2, which is preponderance of evidence. And now, these are the roles of auditors. And then these 2, that is 1 and 2, is what I call the primary roles. Beyond these 2, others are specific roles. Specific roles. The primary role of a forensic auditor is to assist in preparing financial evidence and analysis for court against criminal activities. The primary role, we assist in preparing financial evidence and analysis for court against criminal activity. And in doing this, we perform forensic research to trace funds. We carry out analysis of financial data. We prepare reports and then testify as required. Testify as expert witness or key witness or a consultant, whichever way goes under testifying as required. And the other one is we are in charge of detecting and investigating fraud. What do? We implement fraud prevention programs, which is for internal use, assessing fraud risk, conducting interviews, dealing with witnesses, and reporting findings to management. These are the primary rules. The others that I listed here, up to 15, is specific rules. What do we do specifically? And acting as expert witness, providing consulting services, providing assistance in the discovery process, and valuation of business, computation of damages, document management, tracing of assets on behalf of the client, analyzing the flow of funds, interview possible witness for information on subject's confession, and then we can talk about investigating specialized matters, such as insolvency, insurance, healthcare, or cyber fraud. Okay, thank you very much. I hope I'm still within the 40 minutes, so I await your questions. Thank you, the moderator and the chairman.
Thank you, Professor Olo. You used the time efficiently.
Thank you.
Would you mind to close the screen for a while?
No problem, you can. I will stop.
We already have a question from Ibu Fahriani. Ibu Fahriani. Wait. Good afternoon, Professor Olo. My name is Fahriani from Pekanbaru, Riau. I want to ask in audit public sector. As my experience, audit public sector is very wide, especially in financial statement for local government. Is it good idea to implement forensic audit first, then audit for financial statement to have a clear opinion. Or we do general audit for financial statement first, then forensic audit. Thank you, Prof. Olo.
Can I answer that simply?
Simply that which one then forensic should be
No, can I answer? Yeah, can. I will say that from my experience, the first thing they should do is to carry out audit. Okay, not forensic, but general auditing. Okay, get our auditor to audit, whereby that auditor will express an opinion on the truth and fair view. When you talk of forensic audit, a forensic auditor doing his job, they are usually called, it's a separate engagement. They are not going to look at all accounts, specific areas where fraud is suspected. That's the difference between the two. Unlike auditor is just to express an opinion on the true and fair view, whether they after obtaining reasonable assurance and obtain evidence, and then is assured that the financial statement is free. Financial statement is free as a whole of fraud or error. Yes, that can go. The next stage is if there is suspicion. Okay, then forensic auditor can be called in to look at particular area, not general. Forensic auditor is objective. It's not going to express a general view. I believe, no. There's no I believe. In my opinion, no. For forensic auditor, there's nothing like in my opinion. There's no opinion. What he wants to say is this happened, can be traced to A, and this is the after effect. That's all. So the forensic auditor must be objective, and usually the engagement is not as wide as that of the auditor. So the first thing is to go with the auditor, and then specific areas can be charged to for a forensic auditor or accountant or any other name. That is the process. That is the process, and it's highly recommended. Usually a tenure, maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks, or depending. And the remuneration is different. The way they charge is different.
Oh.
I hope I've been able to answer.
Yeah, I think this answer, not I think, but in my opinion, this answer her question.
Okay.
Since forensic audit is objective, so when we talk about financial statement, the financial statement is actually should clear from fraud. Now we go to the next question from Aldo Pandu. Why manage audit if there is conflict of interest in it?
Why?
Manage audit.
Management audit, okay.
Yeah. When there is conflict of interest in it.
Okay, okay. Yes, in audit, there will always be conflict of interest. And some of us here, we understand what we mean by professional skepticism. When you talk of professional skepticism, we are talking of skepticism in appearance and then skepticism in mind or fact. Usually there is always a conflict of interest, whereby if you are related and you are related to the owners of the business, or your wife or family or somebody is related in one way or the other, you cannot express an independent opinion. You can't. It's difficult. You want to look at those surrounding you. And when you look at the 5 pillars on ethics, the integrity, confidentiality, professional behavior, professional due competence and due care, you'll be able to see that independence weighs so much. Once there's a conflict, you are not independent. You cannot say it. Even when you see something's wrong, you can't say it because there's a conflict. Usually, this is done in in auditing generally, but in terms of forensic auditor, no, there will be no conflict of interest because it must have been way before you took up the appointment. This is a special assignment. It's a special assignment, and why audit may not necessarily go to court, but forensic audit outcome may lead into litigation. It must end in court, and they are going to call your expertise in place through your depositions. For example, if there's a case involving me as a forensic auditor or expert, the first paragraph will be who am I and how am I competent to stand before the court as an expert witness. That brings about my certification and my experience. And therefore, the function, the due is different from the general ones where you are just an auditor, a general auditor that just express an opinion. Here is not to express an opinion. And we don't judge. Forensic auditor will not judge. It's not to go and defend the client. We don't defend the client. We just state what we have found by the documents given to us and tender it. It's the judge that can make pronouncement. We, as forensic auditor, we don't make pronouncement. We don't say he has cheated, he has stolen. No, we just say from the document we have, having regard to different guidelines, this is what we found. And then we write the summary and present to the court. We don't make judgment. That's the difference between the two. So in terms of conflict, somebody who is going to stand before court, and you know what? When you tell lies in court, you know the implication, serious implication, not only to yourself, to your profession, you are damaged your profession too. So a lot of things goes into it. So conflict of interest is important, but for forensic auditor, it's important, but every auditor is very careful. We know the meaning of what's supposed to be done. And professional behavior is part of what we consider too. How do you behave yourself and what do you do? Okay. I don't know if I've answered, but I can still express more if it's not satisfied.
Prof. Olo, conflict of interest is elsewhere. In any case, in any organization, conflict of interest is exists.
Yes.
It means that can we make this as a red flag to check whether there is fraud in it?
Let me give you an example. It depends on what you are looking at. For example, if I don't have a job, the issue of conflict of interest, and somebody is giving me a job, or probably it's the only client I have, where the total revenue of my fee of my firm depends largely on them, surely there will be conflict of interest. Definitely, you know that. And you know the reason, because of the threat. You remember you have the intimidation threat, self-review threat, you have familiarity threat. Yes, use the word familiarity threat. Okay, so this threat will surely be there and play a role. Okay, advocating threat, familiarity threat, intimidation threat. Do this for us so that we can retain you. Pamoson understand very well. There are some instances where he will think twice. I have to take the job or not to take the job. Because if their revenue is from a big source, definitely they will be careful. They may have a way around it. So usually you cannot eliminate conflict of interest, but we can reduce it. Just like you cannot eliminate fraud, but we can reduce fraud to a bare minimum. That's the word. Okay?
Yeah. Prof. Olo, we have a special guest, Miss Vivian from New Zealand. Hi, Miss Vivian. And also Pak Randi Raski from ACFE. Good afternoon, Pak Randi. And also we have so many officers from Inspectorate, from Pandeglang, from Manokwari. Wow, from PD, so many, Pak Olo, Prof. Olo. Please come to raise question for Prof. Olo. But now we have question from Bu Irda from Nunukan. I want to ask about how can public auditors such as inspectorate as an internal auditor will able to plan forensic audit before there is a case that has an legal proceeding or can be used in court of law. Thank you, Prof. Olu.
Yeah,
You got it?
let me just first of all make a clarification. It depends on what you are looking at. If it's a fraud within, you realize that internal auditor, okay, or internal control officer is an employee of the company.
Yes.
You need to first of all realize that. And also, he is responsible to the chief executive, okay, of the organization. What if the fraud occurs through the chief executive? That is another problem. Now, what the internal auditor does is to ensure there is control in place. Ensure there is control in place to prevent fraud. And those controls are just what I've mentioned. Segregation of duties control. Okay? Did you give jobs to 3 people instead of one person takes care of everything? And then somebody signs after someone, just like what you are doing today. Okay, that's a control. I need to seek assets before they can share me in for me to be allowed to share my documents. That's a control. That's a control from the MC, that doctor that started with us, and then to you. That's a control. And it makes it easier because it's smooth. And what you are doing on a daily basis is easier because everybody knows his area. Okay, so if there is control, like I've mentioned, personnel control where you have competent people, there's human resources in place, the unit in place, who is allowed to do what they're supposed to do in terms of hiring and firing. Okay, as against one person just decide and bring his family. This is your chair. You are going to be my cashier. You are the PA. You are this, you are that. There's no control, it's loose. However, if the organization is big, like institutions which the participant is from, there should be need to have personnel department or human resources department who brings in the caliber, the right persons to be in the right position, not through friendship, not through familiarity, not through anything, based on merit. Then it will reduce fraud in the organization. If you look at the issue of physical assets, safeguarding of assets. Okay, if there is control, we know where the generator is, where the car is, who is using the car. Even though the car is bought for the MD, if the wife of the MD is using it, it's no longer for the business. It has been turned to private. And therefore, where is the location of the asset? These are controls. That is why you have the fixed asset schedule. And then we can see, and that is why you always see some of the assets being numbered so that we can trace the assets. So all this control is the job of the internal auditor. Okay, is the job of the internal auditor. The internal auditor, if it's not a certified fraud expert, he cannot be an expert witness in court. He cannot. He cannot. He doesn't have, the certification to be there. He can only work with the lawyers and give some evidence. It is those lawyers that can present it in court. He may be called to come and talk, but it's limited because it's still that evidence is internally generated, and we have agreed that externally generated evidence is better than internally generated evidence. So if it's a confirmation from third party, a confirmation from third party is more reliable than a confirmation from an insider. Okay, so we have to look at which way he's looking at, from the angle of internal auditing or from outside. That is what I want to say for now.
Prof. Olo, so can you mention in short, so what should internal auditors such as inspectorate to do when they know or when they found fraud?
Yes, if he observes some anomalies, he now moves to what I call the procedures. And the procedures are about 7 in numbers. One is inspection.
Okay.
Another one is observation. He can observe and see what is happening. He can physically examine what they bring to confirm whether what they order is what they will supply. What is in the purchase order is what was supplied. Another thing is by recalculation. He can calculate what was given and say what it is. Another one is the performance. Okay, as an internal auditor, he can perform the same transactions and see what happens to it. Okay, he can also do confirmation. Confirmation to a third party is one of them, and also analytical procedures. You can computate ratios, trends, and others, whether vertical or horizontal, he wants to know. This analysis can also support him. Yes, if he's competent. If he's competent, he can do all those procedures. Those 7 procedures can assist the internal auditor. That is, if he suspects there is a foul play, a fraud occur. And mind you, he mustn't tell people that he has seen fraud or fraud has occurred. No. He must be sure. He must be sure. Because evidences here must be evidence-based. Must be evidence-based, document-based evidence. Must have document to base it. It's different from when you look at ordinary audit. In audit, you look at reasonable assurance, and then you look at whether it is appropriate and sufficient. And then you link that, okay? You link the evidence to, is it a reliable evidence? When you are talking of sufficiency, you look, is it reliable? Is it relevant? But when you look at the appropriateness, you are looking at the accuracy. Is it accurate? Is it correct? So it depending on the level you are looking at, your reasonable assurance break into sufficiency and appropriateness, and then reliability, relevancy for sufficiency, for appropriateness, you are looking at, is it accurate or correct? For example, if you're not current, you can't be correct. If you rely on what you did 2 years ago and state the position today, the question is, do you know what happened last year and a few months ago? So you need to be up to date before you can be correct. If you're not up to date, you can't be correct. So we always say that you need to be current for you to be correct. For example, like a lecturer now, if a lecturer is taking a course in forensic and he was relying on his last semester notes before COVID or after COVID, a little bit after COVID, and a student who is current just read a newspaper, a textbook or newspapers about the impact of COVID on e-learning or e-assessment. So if you are not current, you can't be able to answer. And the student has read it in a journal. So if the teacher or the lecturer relies on his old lesson notes, he's not accurate. And he can't be correct. So we need to look at those wordings being used interchangeably in audit and in forensic. Okay.
Okay, Prof. Olo. So, as an inspectorate, it means they are in the prevention area. Is it?
Yeah, the inspectorate division. It depends on the inspectorate decision is usually not they are in control. Yes, they're in control to ensure that all those things they say they should do, they are conforming with it. Yes, they are in control. Yes, it's in control. But at the same time, they can also serve as an examiner. They can also serve as an examiner. It depends on their level of certification. Okay, their experience and their qualification. Okay, you know, somebody just come to your school we say inspector is coming. They come to your school, but they must have had an idea about what you do in school before they can be able to inspect you. Okay, so when they come in, they look at what you are doing, look at your notes, look at your assessment, look at admin, look at other issues. They are inspectors. Okay, but it's just like when you say audit. Some use audit too. Inspector can be audit. Okay, they come in to check what you are doing vis-a-vis the SOPs. Vis-a-vis the SOPs. Are you complying with the SOP? Are you doing something else? What do you do? Yes, that is the role of inspectors too. More or less, they are internal controllers. They are also auditors too. Inspectorate are auditors too. But within the establishment, they are not forensic. They are not, except they have the certification. They cannot argue like me in court. They can't. Because part of the training of forensic auditor is to attend courtroom. We call it mock courtroom. You sit in court, you address the judge, my lord, as my lord pleases, yes, my lord, because you cannot argue. And then you have to know that the person is writing. So you talk slowly, not as I'm talking now, because I'm under time. So I'm fast. Prof. Anita, you can say I'm fast. But in court, we talk slowly, because whatever the lady or the man hears is what is going to write down and base his judgment. So that is the thing. So these are part of the training of forensic auditor. Okay?
Okay. Now we proceed next question from Leandro Doras. He asks you a question. Since this webinar is about role of forensic auditor in fraud prevention, so practically, how could the forensic auditor being in a prevention area, forensic auditor, but prevent fraud? How could?
Let me say that if you look at the Companies Act, whether Indonesia, Malaysia, or Nigeria, prevention of fraud is not the job of a forensic person, even auditor. It's not the job of the auditor. Mm-hmm. It is the job of the management to design and plan their audit, their work in such a way. Is what the auditor do is to plan their audit in examining the financial statement presented. The job of preventing fraud rests squarely with the management, okay, who designs all the controls. He brings in the internal auditor to assist him. So when you talk of how can forensic auditor prevent, yes, it is not their main job. That's why we say it's a specialty job. They are being asked, assuming we are asked to come and do this, what we set up is controls. What they will do is to do what we call controls, okay, compliance controls, and then substantive controls. Those are the two things, okay, which they will do for the organization, and that is what is important. So it is not our job to prevent, but what we can do is to look at what constitutes fraud, like I showed you, anti-fraud profession. What can lead to fraud? We need to create our awareness of the management. I show a figure where I said anti-fraud response professional. If you look at the table which I showed, it simply shows what it means for forensic expert to assist in fraud prevention. Okay, and I show it on it's on page 13. A meta model framework for evaluating anti-fraud profession's response. That's how it is. You need to know what is missing before you can advise. Is it to prevent controls? Is it to detect procedures? So these are what should be in place. And the fraud auditor can be asked, forensic auditor can be asked to design for individual organizations. And mind you, not one solution, not one format is applicable. When you are in oil and gas, the requirements there is different from when you're in manufacturing outfit. When you are in public sector, you know, even when you talk of public sector, which are the public sector? Ministry, departments, and agencies. Some agencies are regulatory. Some are just general public sector. You have the accounting, you have other things. They're not regulating, but they're taking information from public. Maybe getting money, you pay in there. Yes, they're public sector. So when you want to decide the fraud, you have to look at the industry, the area, you know, what the organization is into before you can be able to come out with a specific antidote to prevent fraud. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Olo. In my opinion, I think I still confused
Okay.
as a forensic auditor. Let's see your presentation slide number 14 and 15. Is it for the forensic auditor or the management?
So,
would you mind
Dian,
to share?
Mind to share the screen, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
Prof. Olo, please.
I'm trying to share.
Page 14 and 15, yeah?
Yeah, 14 and 15.
Can I share or he's sharing for me?
Prof. Olu, would you mind to open the presentation at page 14 and 15?
Yeah, that's what I want to do now, but you didn't allow me in. I'm trying to click them to see if I can.
Okay, Pak Umrah.
Yeah, I'm trying to share, but
Okay.
you need to.
Pak Umrah.
Okay, yes.
Okay, yes.
Yes, we are there.
Yeah, 14 and 15. Slide number 14 and 15.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay. This is starting. Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Okay. This is what I'm saying. This evaluating the anti-fraud prevention response. This is what is important. Okay. When you want to look at what point in time, you know, will anybody commit fraud? They commit fraud from where we have the opportunity, okay, where individual characteristics, measures, constructs. The perpetrators are in these 4 areas. Okay, that is before fraud occurs. These can be an influencer. Like, for example, if I pick the word opportunity, okay, you may be opportune to be in possession of the finance of an organization, just like MNK, maybe the cashier in the office, okay? It's an opportunity. What if it needs emergency money? And because Mason doesn't check her on a daily basis, you know, you can put an impress, show that money was not taken, but physical cash has gone. Physical cash has gone. How will you know or what happened? The cashier or the person can just remove 1,000 Indonesian rupee. For 3 days, nobody will know because he has the opportunity. And they don't check him or her regularly. Nobody is checking. He can even remove more. because our money comes to him or her. That is opportunity at work. So if there's a problem, a fraud auditor, we want to look at what is why is only one person receiving, paying money, issuing receipt, he collects money, he issues receipt, he goes to bank, collect money from bank, and disburse at the same time. You have given enough room for that person to commit fraud because he has the opportunity to commit fraud. He may not even have a need, but because he has the money, she may decide to go and buy a flat television or buy a beautiful car because he's in charge of the money. It's quite different from need. But what is working is opportunity, is as opportunity. Now, if you look at pressure or need or incentive, very close. Somebody just come to you, dear to you, and on the way, something happened, and you are called. We need to save this person's life. How do you save his life? And because there's pressure, there's need, you go and alter documents. That is why you see documents coming in photocopies, not originals. You alter documents because you want to commit fraud, and there's need. And you know, if you don't get money, they will sell the house. Auctioneers will take the house. So you falsify documents because there's need and there's pressure, and then you can get money. These are something that is showing how one can commit fraud because there is pressure, and you don't want, the pressure is much on you. There's no way, but you know what to do. You can falsify documents and get what you want. And then when we talk of rationalization, it's like, okay, I didn't say I'm not going to pay back. I knew I took the money, but I will pay back. Once I get my upfront housing allowance or when I got my salary, I will be paying back. But the issue is, are there documentations? If there is no documentation through which that person applies for a loan, pass all the way to the chief executive or the principal partner and approved, and then the terms of refund or payment is stated in the letter, whatever that person has done is fraudulent. It's a fraudulent act. So what you are seeing here leads to fraud, and then a fraud auditor can work on these areas, and that is why he needs to visit the organization. He needs to visit the organization, look at the environment, the nature of the job, who is doing what, take care of their personnel file, what are their requisite qualifications, are they competent to hold the position. Take, for example, somebody is holding about, let's say 100,000, I don't know what is the biggest money there, let's say 1 million Indonesian rupees, and his salary is 10,000. The person's salary is 10,000 Indonesian rupees, and he has minimum of 1 million Indonesian rupees. You have already tempted that person to commit fraud. Yes, because this gives room for him to do something else. So the fraud auditor will look to individual employee and see the type of job they give them and what their prerequisite. You know, sometimes we ask for guarantors. You ask for guarantors, especially when you want to put somebody in financial position where he's going to take charge. You want people to bank to guarantee him. 2 people as sureties or guarantors. It's just no more, no less. So this can be done, but it has to be done through the process and the procedures.
Yep. Okay. Prof. Olo, now I think I already got the point, but Miss Vivian risks new question to you.
Okay.
I have question regarding conflict of interest and the honest, what is honest? Of the audit to maintain objectivity and privacy. What obligation does the auditor and forensic auditor to advise the person or people they are under investigation? Grounds my state, if any, to the suspect and when.
Can you please repeat slowly so that I can jot down the points? Or if you can,
sorry.
then I will be able to, because it's long. It's a long sentence.
Yeah. I have question regarding conflict of interest and the honor of the auditor to maintain object. Share your screen.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I pick conflict of interest, honesty, as an attribute, and then I look at objectivity and privacy. Now, let us start from the fundamental principles of ethics. We start to look at from the angle of integrity. And you can see conflict of interest and honesty. You have to look at what it means when you look at integrity. Somebody with integrity must be a straightforward person, very straightforward and easily saying the truth. You look at the issue of confidentiality. This is one of the major components that whether you are auditor or forensic auditor must practice. You cannot disclose the information of your client to another person. You can be sued. That is, they can file litigation against you. So auditors are aware of that. And that is why when auditors send their staff to audit, the jobs being done by each audit staff has their name on it. So you know who does what before a review is done. Mm-hmm. So confidentiality is very paramount to auditors, whether you're forensic or the general auditors. It's even wrong in the profession. It's one of the issues. When you look at that, you look at professional behavior. How do you behave is also an issue to an auditor. And that is why your behavior must be in accordance with your certification. Your behavior must be in accordance with your certification. So it is very important for forensic auditor to ensure professional behavior in his attitude and dealings. Number 4, you talk of professional competence and due care. Is the auditor competent? When you talk of due care to who? To your client. So there is an issue there. So when you look at the issue of objectivity, privacy, are you practicing what you are supposed to preach? And then you look at, I've just mentioned that, professional due care, competence, integrity, confidentiality, independence. When you look at all those ones, they are very germane to the practice, to the work of an auditor. And that is why you are called independent auditor. It separates you from the internal auditor. And that is why you are called independent auditor. And these functions you are performing is stated in the Companies Act of nearly all countries. So it's not the same as ordinary auditor, internal auditor. Internal auditor is not stated in the common, in the Companies and Allied Matters Act. So you need to know what is supposed to do and what is supposed not to do. Okay, now if you look at all those characteristics, essentials, principal components okay, principles of audit. You will also see that when you are not honest, you know the implication. You're not fit to perform that function. You're not fit. And it's just a disgrace to you, to your certificate, and to your institution. And let me say this, how is it being controlled? Most of the professional bodies have their certificate being recognized that this certificate is the property of this institute. The certificate, professional certificate, doesn't belong to you. You're only using it because they certify you. But the real owner of the certificate is the institute. So most professional certificate, when you look down, you know, in a small wordings, is written at the end of the certificate that this certificate is the property of this institute of so and so, meaning that they have the right to withdraw it if you don't do right. So once this, you know, most of the professional bodies have tribunals. In ICAN, we have tribunal. The tribunal, your case can be taken to the tribunal, and then the tribunal sit like a high court, not just a magistrate, a high court. So ICAN has a tribunal. If your case is taken there, you also can invite lawyers to defend you, because if they find you guilty, you only go to court of appeal. So the tribunal has the status of a high court of a country. So these are checks against professional auditors or forensic auditors. Because you know, if you are guilty, they take you out and then you are fined. You can be withdrawn, the certificate can be withdrawn, and you can be blacklisted. So these are ways we can checkmate the conflict of interest and this. But let me say this. It has to do with remuneration. There's no way you won't have small element of conflict. For example, every professional body has what we call scale of fees by which you can charge your client. Probably Per Moson is going to lead a team as the principal partner. His hourly rate will be higher than an other senior to get the job. Your client will tell you, look, you are too expensive for me. I'd rather get somebody that is going to take less. That is where we normally have conflict of interest among the professionals. Yes, we have people who are rigid, but if you are just a one-man business, okay, not like Per Mo that has about 4 Price Waterhouse, Ernst & Young, whatever, the same weight given to them is the same way they give MNK in law. They use the same stamp. Once they did their job, they put their stamp and seal. So there's no difference between the big foreign auditors and the local auditors. No. In the professional bodies, that is to create a level playing field so that there's no conflict of interest or whatever. But I can say in practice, it does happen, especially when you are one-man business and you don't have more jobs. So you can do something, that is not too right. Let me use the word too right. Because you want to survive. You want to survive. That is what I can say about. I don't know if I've answered the person. All this depends on the ethics and not going with the standard that is being used for your work. You need to follow the guidelines and the standards and the controls. Okay, so it's important that one goes with it. And that is where we have the issue of professional behavior, professional competence and due care, integrity, confidentiality, independence. Very key. Yes, we agree there are threats. We agree there are threats, like you taking gift from your client. For example, now, if MNK received a gift from the MD of one of his clients, which is more than 10%, when you look at it, of their revenue or salaries, he should reject it. Because why is he giving gift? The question is why? I'm getting my remuneration. I'm getting my professional fee. So these are what can be done. But ordinarily, the professional bodies are taking care of it through their bylaws, code of conduct for professional accountants. Every organization has professional code of conduct for professional accountants. In every country, accountants they have. So that prevents what she's trying to bring out. Okay.
Prof. Olo, would you mind if we invite Miss Vivian? Miss Vivian, are you there?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for that answer. Did you want to speak to me?
Yeah.
Or shall I continue?
Yeah.
I have just one more part to that question, is that when, as an auditor, you suspect a person of fraud, at what is your obligation to tell the suspect of your investigation, and what must you reveal to them and when? So that was the base of my question.
Okay.
Your
How
duty
do you
to
know?
inform the suspect, if any.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just, first of all, thank you for, that's a wonderful one. Very wonderful, more professional. How do you know somebody has committed a fraud? How? And even if you know, the suspect is the last person to be interviewed and interrogated. I use interview and interrogated for those who are familiar with the terminology. If it is interview, I can be talking gently and put words into you. But when it's interrogation, even when you are not saying it, I'll be putting a question across and force it as if you either say yes, you did it or you didn't do it. That is interrogation. So we, in practice, the person that we suspect will be the last person to be interviewed. Okay. Will be the last person. Because you must have gotten corroboration. You remember when I was talking on the rule of evidence. Corroboration is very important and key. Someone said there will have been a leak. Yes, you have seen some document. Yes, you have seen some document, but you still need to corroborate those documents. Who signed? Who's supposed to sign? Maybe two people supposed to sign. Most of the documents have been signed by one person. When two people supposed to sign. So we can sign evidence that you're suspecting. That is okay. But by the time you have gone through everything, is it normal? The first question is it normal for him alone to be signing? And what happens in case he needs to sign singly? If, for example, what if he sign this weekend, the MD is traveled, and thinking that by Monday, he will give the MD to countersign? That's another issue. So even though you have seen that, oh, he signed most of the documents, that doesn't say you have found him, yes, he's still a suspect, yes, I agree. But still, you still need to find out, do your due diligence more. At what point did he sign? And is it planning to give it to the second person to cross-sign or to co-sign? You need to find out. And what is the minimum benchmark to sign at a point in time? Maybe it's a junior officer. Can he sign more than 100 rupees or more, or sign less? Then in addition, if maybe he tries to split the bills so that he can sign all. Yes, we can suspect him. We can suspect because he knew that he has no power to sign anything above 100. What do we do? And because he wants to sign, and in that same day, same hour, we can see he signed 10 in multiples of 10 just to beat the controls. Yes, we can still look at that. That is a red flag. That is a symptoms which we have talked about. Yes, it's right. However, like I said, he is the last person to be interviewed. And then you don't tell somebody that he has committed fraud. No. It's not your job as forensic auditor. You report to the management what you found. That is it. It's a matter of you writing your report, what you have seen, and who is the amount is traced to, and then evidences of him being actually a suspect. You document and report to the management. It's not your duty to accuse him and call him that you are a fraudster. No, we don't do that. You have no right. And by the way, it is only court that can call somebody a fraudster if he's guilty. Even if you charge him to court, he's still a suspect, just like you found him to be a suspect. So you need to be very careful, and especially forensic. If it's auditor, you can be allowed, but being a forensic auditor, you cannot say so. That's what I said earlier. You cannot make a judgment. You don't pass a judgment as a forensic auditor. You can document and show evidence of what has happened. The judgment will be for the judge to say you are found guilty. Yours is to do the analysis. Yours is to look at documentation. Yours is to reduce the 1,000 volumes of papers to 10 pages, summarizing and bring out the facts. That is your job as a forensics expert. Judgment doesn't be with you. That's what I want to say. I think I answer you.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Vivian.
Are you satisfied?
You again.
Huh?
It doesn't
Yes.
believe
Yeah,
that you
no,
are satisfied.
you could see that the person is actually a professional. And these are some of the problems we face. We are not the judge. We are not the judge. And how do you call somebody that everybody is a suspect? Like I said, like I said, who can commit fraud? Anyone can commit fraud. Your friend commits fraud. Your friend takes your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, close to you. We normally say he's jealous. No, he has interest. So who can commit fraud against you will be those close to you. So I regard everybody as suspect in anything. I can only trust myself. Even though Pamoson is my friend, we always say my chairman, my friend. But at what level do I trust him? I don't trust him by my training. I don't trust anybody. A forensic person must not trust anybody. Everybody is a suspect. That is the thing. That's the training. And once you do that, you'll be able to get what you want to do. You are independent. You know, in forensic, we don't do sampling. In audit, you can do sampling, pick different randomly by cluster or by this. We don't do that in forensic. You have to look at all documents, even the smallest one. You have to consider it. And that is why forensic is different from auditing. We can do random sampling, you can pick end position randomly, everybody. No, you can do all those ones. One of the areas you left untouched is where the fraud occurs. And we want to be objective. So no sampling in forensic. It has to be every documentation you have to go through. In physicality too, you can just see a warehouse and then you see cartons. What if empty bottles are inside the cartons? You saw the rack, everything is racked, and you can see so many things there, like here in my office, I put books. So what we are saying is that as a forensic auditor, he will ask them to bring those cartons down and check. Maybe it's half used, half not used. You will know. They may even put good ones, they are fully, midway, half, down, empty. So you must empty if it is a car, a vehicle, empty the vehicle and go through one by one. Forensic does that. Physical examination, forensic. Auditor can do random sample of the warehouse. Okay, we're supposed to touch a 4-branch network. If we go for 2, it's okay. But forensic will not go for 2. What if the 3rd and 4th is where fraud has occurred that brought loss to the organization? So we don't do random sampling. We don't do sampling. Sampling has no place in forensic assignment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Olo. Thank you, Prof. Vivian.
Thank you too. Thank you too.
Bu Ferawati Onggowijoyo, would you mind to raise some question, Bu Vera? Oh, actually, she raised question for you, Prof. Olo. How is the fastest way to find cheating that has been a long time ago? Incidentally, the one who cheated is someone who is an expert in technology and accounting. Prof. Olo?
Yeah, let me look at, you see, that is why I brought the theory of risk in action and theory of human behaviors, theory of planned behaviors, which states that human beings are difficult to control. And the theory is saying that the TPP is good at analyzing dishonest behaviors. Okay, whoever wants to be dishonest will always be dishonest, no matter what you do. That is number one. And everybody has a tendency of having dishonest behavior at one point in time. And why? It's because there will always be a need. There will always be a pressure. There will always be an incentive. And there will always be the opportunity to act in such a way that you have acted. And then you can also rationalize it. And probably you have the capacity. What would they do to me? For example, take Mo, the chairman. He has his family, assuming he has one or two of his family members there. Do you know they can commit fraud? And then what can he do? They will say, once we reach home, all he needs to do is to prostrate. I said, sir, I did it, I didn't do it. He started asking questions. But if it has been a foreign person, not connected, you will know the judgment the chairman will pass immediately. So what we are saying is that everybody is liable to commit fraud. Anybody. In fact, the MD can also commit fraud on his company. Why? He buys things for himself and he collects the money as if it was spent on business. That's fraud. Even though he's the owner of the business. There's a difference between drawings for his personal use or drawings for the business. If he withdrew money for the business, oh, I traveled to Malaysia to do this business transaction. And the law will be there. The money collected, is it wholly for the business? Is it reasonable for the business? Is it exclusively for the business? It is necessary for the business. Those 4 keywords read must be proved. Wholly for the business, reasonable for the business, exclusively for the business, and necessary for the business. If it is not, if anyone is failing, then it becomes private expenditure. And because he collects his salary, remuneration, he should use part of his remuneration. And that is what the law says. So what I'm saying is that no one in an organization is free from committing fraud. If he has the tendency to do it, he will do it. He will do it. Let me also ask you, most often times buy fuel, you may want to cheat and feel small and said you forget to pick your ticket from the station and you collect money. Even if it is 1 ringgit you collect extra within you, your conscience, is fraud. It's fraud. So what we mean is that if you have these behaviors, human beings, there's nobody that is free. We can only do something by saying, look, we want to maintain integrity one way or the other too. Even housewives, they do cheat their husband. And why don't you call that fraud? Daddy, we need 10,000. This 10,000. When I come back, I give you receipt. How many times did you give receipt? And did you also spend the whole 10,000? Say, I'm your wife. I'm entitled to it. You have given me. But to me, it's fraudulent. So you can look at fraud in different ways and different dimensions, depending on what you are looking at. Okay?
After this webinar, I will meet my husband and tell that I...
No. You know, there's a difference between gift. If he were to give you something that I give this to you, that is not fraud. But when you are sent to buy something for your children and you did not know the actual amount to spend, and you said, my husband, I don't know the estimate, but give me, if there's balance, I bring for you. Fine. See, look at the definition of fraud. A representation, material point, relied upon by somebody. Now, he relied on you, believed you, and acted by giving you money. And when you come back, you spend 6,000 out of 10,000, and you did not give him the balance. And you say, because I'm your wife. What have you done? You are fraudulent. Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
That is what false representation. But if you come back and say, this is your balance, and you say, I give you, that is no longer a fraud. Because he gave it to you, that you are sincere. So you need to understand that every day we practice this thing. It's only that it's at a low level, okay? At a lower level, okay? Yes. Is that okay?
이거 왜 뺐어?
Pak Umrah.
바뀌긴 생겼어. 왜? 기관지가 좀 많이 안 좋아가지고 또
Umrah.
잠 못 자. 왜? 진짜로? 그 아주버님들이 말씀하신
진짜
거야?
깜짝
Pak
놀랐네.
Umrah.
문제라고 절대로 한 방에서 같이 자. 아 진짜?
Umrah.
진짜 꼴. 정말 제가 코를 진짜
Pak Umrah. Halo.
멤버들한테도 미안할 정도로 코를 너무 많이 골아가지고 그것도 그렇고 좀.
Are you talking to me?
졸렸다가는
Okay, go on, Prof. Olo.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. So many ways by which you can look at what fraud constitutes. You remember yesterday I was talking a difference between error, mistake, and fraud. Yes. Or someone's house. And he throw waters on you. Okay? And you are drenched inside water with your cloth. How do you call that? 3 scenarios. 2 scenarios there. First, if it was done accidentally or intentionally, it's an error. But probably you have quarreled with that person or something happened before, he wanted to do it with an intention. Then he purposely pour on you so that where you are going, you will not be able to go. That is intentional act. That is not an error, but a mistake. But when fraud comes into it, it's an intentional act, giving false information, somebody rely on it, act on it, part away with his money, and suffer loss. Example, those doing investment scam, bring 1 ringgit, you get 10 ringgit. You know, there's nothing like that within 1 month. Okay? Those scammers are fraudulent. If somebody says, give me 200 ringgit or 200 Indian rupee, Indonesian rupee, by the end of the month, you have 400% interest. You should run away. Because the bank is not giving up to 10% and somebody is giving 400%. You should know that there's false representation. And most often times, the allocation, the ones you are dealing with, them, you know the location. After you have parted with your money, they pack out of that location. So that is fraud because there is deception. They have collected your money and you cannot see them again. Example are those who write you. Most of us are seeing the letters from United Nations, appointment and so, human rights something. When you didn't apply and you receive a letter, Don't you know that you're a fool by replying? You didn't apply to have an appointment with the United Nations or with the Prime Minister of Indonesia, and somebody says, we receive a letter. Most of us were carried away. You don't even check the IP address. Most often times, not in government IP, but in individual, Gmail, Yahoo, and so and so. You should be placed, on notice that, look, something's wrong. But because we are greedy, we are very greedy, we want to have the best position. Those who are greedy are always prone to fraudsters. You are selfish, you are greedy, you can easily be tempted and then get money out of you. So one should be very careful. That's what I want to say for now.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. Olo. We go to the question from Tengku Fauzi, the Inspectorate of PD.
Okay.
So many terms using interchangeably, so sometimes confusing. What is the difference between substance of an investigative audit and forensic audit? It is, Paulo.
Okay. You will see that once I said investigation, fraud investigation, forensic auditor, forensic or fraud investigation, they're the same if he's looking at it from that angle and they have certification. If you look at designation I gave, they are the same. Okay. They are the same. Okay. The only difference in audit and others, which auditors also do, is to do what we call substantive test. Okay, instead of compliance test. Okay, where you suspect that fraud may have occurred, you do tests of account details, tests of transactions, and then you do analytical procedures. Okay, you can now bring back the issue of reperformance or recalculation. Okay, as a procedures. So if you use fraud investigator or forensic auditor, they are the same. They are the same, except if that other fraud investigation does not have the certification of forensic. If it doesn't have it, it's different. Okay, but if it has it, the terminology is the same. Okay, and like I said, you cannot just judge what procedures to use. You have to look at what type of organization, what is the nature of the business. Okay, what do they do? You know, some organizations in the public, they are just collecting cash. They don't award contract. They don't. They are just revenue earners to the government. Okay, like Federal Inland Revenue Service, the inland revenue in Malaysia. They don't make purchase. They collect your assessment. Yes. So when you want to find out fraud, whether it exists there, the procedure there is different. You have to do what we call observation, confirmation, inspection. All these procedures have to be in place. You don't need much of analytical procedures there. You don't need that. You are not comparing anything. But there you have about 5 things that you need to look at, 5 or 6, which has to do with the performance. How does it do it? Do they bring out cumulative figures every month or every day, every week? You have to look at that. So that is the way to look at it. I don't know if I've answered the person specifically. If he has a direct issue, if he mentions the issue, I can't be able to address it because the question is general. It's general. But if he has a specific one, I will address it. And if not here, I can address through Telegram or WhatsApp or email.
Great.
I can.
Yeah, although we still have 2 more questions. We also still have 5 more minutes. So first question, last question. In a case involving collaborating group of people, is a forensic audit is the ideal answer, or depending on real condition?
I will say depending on real condition. Like I said, the engagement of forensic auditing is different from general auditor, which is provided for. You need to tell us specifically what areas you want the forensic to be undertaken. Specifically, what area, not just general. Forensic auditor is not a general auditor. Inventory, asset, this, that. No, specifically you must state, and he must go down deep on it. It must be specific. The reporting role is also different. Okay, who reports to differs. Tenure differs. Okay, remuneration differs. Okay, so we need to consider it differs. Okay, tenure differs. If there is, okay, remuneration sufficient between one group or another, which must have been a result of an audit, then a forensic auditor will be called in specifically for that aspect where they suspect foul play. Yes, yes. But to look generally on every business activities, no.
Can we say that general audit gives alert for the forensic auditor?
Can we say?
The general audit will alert, will warn the forensic auditor which areas should forensic auditor come in?
Yes, I will agree with you that it may not even be an internal auditor. A whistleblower can raise it. A whistleblower can write a report. Yes, a whistleblower can talk and bring an issue. An employee too, through what we call ombudsman, can write and drop it somewhere that management or somebody else will see and take up. And if it is read and believed that something is wrong, then management can institute forensic auditing. Not necessarily internal auditor or external auditor. You can get information from different sources. Okay. And if the management so believe in it, they can come for a forensic audit. Yes, that is right. That is right.
Okay. The last question, or I check first if there is new question. I would like to ask Professor, what is about gray area in fraud review? How did we deal with this from forensic auditing perspective?
Okay. There's no, like I told you, individual fraud depends on the nature of the fraud. And then we also have procedures, okay? And in the procedures, like I mentioned, those ones are there. And when you are reviewing, before you can come out, you have to justify what you are doing. And that will be evidence-based, not just evidence. I gave some laws, rules of evidence. Okay, I gave some terminologies in the rules of evidence. At what point in time is an evidence admissible or relevant or competent? You need to know. Yes, we always believe in having evidence. Okay, this is the evidence. This person killed A. The question is, were you there when he killed A? No, somebody told me he killed A. In law, that is hearsay. You are not there. So when you want to talk of review, you have to look at the type of evidence, how to get credible evidence to support your review. It's very important because the evidence gives us the ability to report on what we have seen. And it is the evidence that will attract us and the management to go to court to seek legal proceedings. So the issue is, what type of evidence do you have? Bearing in mind the rules of evidence. Is it admissible? Is the evidence competent? Is it relevant? Is it reliable? As against the ones in audit. In general audit, you look at appropriate and sufficient evidence. That's what we normally use. Is it appropriate? Is it sufficient? And you break the sufficient into two. Is it relevant? Is it reliable? And when you break the appropriateness into two, you can also break it into two. Is it accurate and is it correct? So because appropriate is in quantity, sufficient is in quality, and it depends. What you think is sufficient is relative. To Pamo may not be relative. He has his own thinking about it. Just like you have a supervisor. A supervisor in a manufacturing setup is quite different from a supervisor in a banking institution. Yet the two are supervisor. So when you look at them, it's a question of relativeness. So which evidence you are bringing must be able to satisfy the court. Evidence that cannot be used in court, forget it. You can't proceed. And forensic auditor is trained to know which evidence will be admissible in court as against the ordinary auditor. So when you are conducting investigation, you have to look at the method of collecting the evidence and which type of evidence you are collecting and what is the flow of the evidence you are collecting. You have to look at it. The bulk of the job is the evidence. And those evidence become as a result of substantive test, which you have done, is bringing it to another level. Okay, how do you get you need to evaluate the evidence itself. So that is what I want us to look at. Is it computer generated evidence that they're talking about, running into so many pages, millions of pages? So you need to know which type of evidence. For example, now, if I'm doing bank reconciliation, okay, excess bank charges, we do that in Nigeria. I don't know if you are doing that in Indonesia. For instance, we conduct forensic audit on excess bank charges. Usually, the Bank of Indonesia issue guidelines to banks. We also have monetary policies, okay, on the issue of commissions, charges, turnovers, and etc. The revenue of the bank, usually we know, is on commission, right? But then, when you take loan from them, they play so many things on you. They will tell us that you didn't pay the principal, you pay more than the principal, add interest again, you are paying 3 times what you borrow. So forensic expert will be called in, and that's my expert. I'm an expert in that. You invite us, we look at the offer for the loan, okay? We look at the offer, what was the law as at that time till date? What is the rate that monetary policy stipulates plus LIBOR? You know, when they make a law, a rate, there will be charges by the bank, which nearly goes between 3 to 4%. We call it LIBOR rate. It's added to it. We look at that. We find out what they are paying and what is paying. And then we also know that even when you transfer money to the bank, you have money that the bank can withdraw to transfer to your loan. They may not withdraw it because they want to earn their interest. They want to earn their interest. They will not withdraw it. They will tell you that you didn't give them instruction to transfer because they want your money. So these are some of the rules that we look. Automatically, if you have 2 accounts with them and one is not buoyant, one is buoyant, by the end of the month, they should automatically remove the money because the accounts are linked. But they will tell you, you didn't tell us to remove the money because they want to charge you. And we say no. That's what the law says. So usually they pay a lot of money back. And when you see bank, mortgage, you take a mortgage, you buy a house, you take loan from the bank, they will go and sell it on your behalf, auction it. And when they auction it, we trace it. Who they sell the house to? Most often times, the bank staff are the beneficiaries. A house that worth 3 million or 4 million, they will sell for 1 million because a staff of the bank is interested. Forensic auditor will get your house back. These are part of my job, and I have evidence to transfer to Mason to look at it. Forensic is objective. That's the thing. You must be objective. You must be sure of what you are saying. It's not that they told me, no. What did you see? What did you find? Who is involved? Are there any internal or external influence? You need to find out. Collisions, connivance, you need to know. Otherwise, you have not done your job. And how do we get paid? Forensic is better than audit. We have what we call front end and back end. Okay? Front end is just administrative expenses, setting up and send staff to you to look at your records, comply, get some documents from bank, this and that, yes. For example, if I'm dealing with bank reconciliation, I will not, even though the client has given me their bank statement, but the law says I should ask the bank. You must ask the bank to send to your client an updated bank statement. That, and you know, when they do that, they stamp it and the current date. Then that is what we use. You don't use the one they have sent to your client. It can be mutilated. Some pages must have been turned off. We don't use that. And we normally ask for soft copy so that we are going to be on the same level with them. Because if you go to pre-trial, which we call discovery, they will also print the statement as you have. Otherwise, if what you have is different from their own, then you are not talking. You are not on the same level. So we normally request the bank through our client. Immediately you are appointed as a forensic accountant or auditor, the client must introduce us to the bank by a letter and attach. And there's a condition there in court, in the court. For you to be accepted on a job of forensic, you must have a fee stated in your appointment letter. If no fee is stated, it means you're not a forensic expert. Technically, the court will throw you off, your client off. So these are part of the rule. So even if it is a small amount, let them say you're collecting this as a fee. It is then your job, your work can be surrendered in court and admitted. Otherwise, it will not be admitted. So we have different things there. And a lot of people are getting their houses back. They are no longer paying. Instead of them paying the bank are paying them. And why? If you build anything on sand where there's no truth, because most of the time we saw that the bank's rate which they are charging are more than what they stipulate by the Bank of Indonesia or Bank of Nigeria in terms of charges. Because you cannot say you are charging. Yes, he ran to you because he's in need, he's desperate to take loan, to do financing. But then must you charge in excess of what the government has allowed? You can't. So we use that against the bank too. Don't tell me the bank doesn't commit fraud. They do. Because they have human beings there. And banks use your money as commission. You know, because you are seeing the bankers use it. Where did they get the money? What did they do? There's a lot to gain in forensic. Okay. I don't know if you are okay with that. My moderator, are you still with me?
Sorry, I mute myself.
It's okay, it's okay. I hope you are, you see, it's an interesting area, you know. I can share with Pamosen, because he's a professional like me. The terminology we use is not like auditor. Be objective, and we say the language of forensic is not just simple. It's like we're indicting you that you did, because we show evidence of what we have done and what we have said, and that you do this because you know the man doesn't know. Yes, if a farmer doesn't know any law in banking, all he needs is money. But bank plays on their ignorance. The marketing staff plays on their ignorance. They just give paper to them and say sign, and they sign. They don't even read the conditions. They don't read what they want is just give me the money to clear my goods. I want to avoid demurrage. You know, businessmen, once they face problems, you can see their attitude. It's quite different. So forensic comes into bank charges. We also look into bank duty, pay as you earn, which you're also doing there. We look at bank duty. Forensic can be done on bank duty. So many areas you can do forensic. So many areas. And like I told you, the first money is front end. The back end is that forensic doesn't charge you. We take percentage of recoveries. Percentage of recoveries. Whatever we recover, pay us this percentage. And that is what we always charge as fees. Because that shows you that if you don't work hard, there is nothing for you to recover. And once you're able to recover and there's an admission, then they will pay you. But when you work with government, the recoveries are in billions. And maybe you are asking for 10%, then there will be dragging of feet to pay you. That's another problem from that side too. So you start to negotiate, or you may not see the end. They will say they want to settle out of court to reduce your bill. You know, so these are what we also face too in forensic work. Very challenging, very interesting, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Thank you.
Wow, I think I already said that this is the last question. Unfortunately, we still have one more last question. Last question.
Don't worry, if the time is there, I'm okay. I'm enjoying it. If the time is there, yes, let them feel free. I'm enjoying it too. I'm enjoying it too.
It's from, I don't know, someone. Professor, I want to ask question. How do we can see the balance sheet as a symptom of fraud? How can we use number in balance sheet or information in balance sheet to get the symptom of fraud?
Yes, definitely. You know, this is what we call the financial statement fraud, and the informations in balance sheet are always there. Why? You look at management wants to make profit, they want to declare dividend. Okay, that is part of why there will be fraud in the balance sheet. You know what it means, declares of product obsolescence, stock inventory or stock obsolescence is part of saying nonsense about it. Increasing the asset and reducing the liability is also one of the symptoms. Okay, and when you are owing people, you refuse to pay or probably change the date, which we call post-balance sheet event. You see, these are part of it. Another thing is when you ask an expert in valuation, value analyst, to value your assets. Okay, most often times management value it by themselves. They don't call the quantity surveyor or quantity expert, who is an expert who can give a certificate with a seal. But as a forensic expert, who will ask for a third party to do the valuation for us and then attest to it. Another area is area of contingent liability. Okay, there is a case in court, and they will not. They may not mention it, but where we see evidence of contingent liability, we ask their lawyer, their legal officer, to write us confirming whether they will lose it or otherwise. Okay, and rely on it, because the likelihood of going concern may not be there if it doesn't favor them. So in so many areas, the intention is just like the intention when you don't want to obey GAAP, okay, which we call honest management. Okay, you jettison the normal principles of generally accepted accounting principles to non-GAAP. and says, I'm not going to value the asset at cost, lower of cost, or net realizable value. You want to value at a replacement cost or a market value cost, market value. You are outside the agreed norms. So these are symptoms, and I show examples in the write-up. A lot of them are there on the balance sheet. It's there. Since you have the presentation, you can share your audience, the participants. They can see, what are the symptoms? How do we know they are out there? I actually stated there. Even in account balances too. Even in account balances too, there can be omission or commission. Okay, and you remember when I was talking of the test of accountants, where most of the receipts are not original, they're duplicates, photocopies, some legible, some not legible, you should suspect there's fraud. Okay.
Another one more last question.
Don't worry, as long as they are interested, no problem. Okay, as long as they're interested, no problem. Okay. Prof, don't forget, we said this is a sharing session among colleagues, academic colleagues, because the information was provided by the chairman yesterday, showing us that 70% are from academics, 30% are from professional bodies. So I will be impressed if those from non-professional are asking questions. But forensic is meant for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
For example, before I became a forensic expert, I have to Popoola and Co. that does audit work. Yes. And then we set up OMJP Forensic that does forensic job. Okay. So it depends on who is looking at it. So let them feel free as long as it's within your time. And that is what you have done by saying, talk for less than 40 minutes. And I think I did that. And then ask general questions. So I'm happy if they can ask questions. Very much happy.
Okay. My question, I think this is my question. What practically you do as a forensic auditor to contribute in preventing fraud? Practically, it means, what did you do? Your experience.
Okay, my experience, like I said, there's no one way to answer it. Because the nature of the business will decide what type of method or approach to use. There's no one way to answer that type of question. Okay, and there are uncontrollable factors that we also need to consider. The controls I will implement in an enterprise or one-man business will not be the same control I will introduce in organizations that are publicly quoted. So it depends on where you are coming from. Okay. You have to look at the balance of power. Where does the power resides? For example, if I'm looking at any organization that is publicly quoted and I don't see one accountant as a director, I know there is going to be a problem because the audit committee will be lacking. If every director are businessmen or expert, but no banking and finance, no accountant as a director, something's wrong. Unfortunately, the Code of Corporate Governance has put it there. Whether you like it or not, somebody who is an expert in accounting or whatever must be a director, at least one. And also, you also recall that we normally have the position of chairman and chief executive being combined into one. Now, through corporate governance, we are saying separate the two. Let the chairman be separated from the CEO who manages the business on day-to-day. So it depends on which organization you want me to look at in bringing out what controls that can be used to prevent fraud. Like I said, whether you are preventing or deterrence, what you are doing is controls. But when you are detecting, What we need is procedures. So you need to understand the difference. Prevention goes with controls before it happens. But when it happens, you don't look at control. It means control has failed. That's why fraud occurs. Fraud occurs when control has failed. And therefore, you revert to procedures. What is missing? What did they do that they shouldn't have done? Or what they ought to do, which they failed to do? So you now start to look at it. So there's no one-way answer to it. It depends on the organization. And also, you know, if it is a partnership, you also need to look at the partnership act and the partnership deed. And you also look, and some will say, accept to use the generally accepted partnership act. Some will say, no, we have our own partnership deed. Where they have their own partnership deed, then use their own. You won't use the general one. So it depends on the nature of the business and what information they give you, like their memo and articles of association. You need to study it. For example, now, another areas of fraud is when you have a consultancy outfit like KPM, okay, who is an auditor, advisor, business advisor, this and that, and says is giving, is doing financial matters, like giving money to people to borrow and then take interest. The first thing we always look at is it part of their business activity? If it is not in their memorandum and article of association, it means what they are doing is illegal. And if you are a victim, you do so, you're not going to claim anything from them because you need to know what is the nature of their job before you start to transact business of money, financial transaction with them. They are not bankers. Why will you leave a banker and say you are getting something is investment company? Because this put it in one condition that yes, they can do investment. What type of investment are they doing? So most often times, just don't do business with anybody without seeing the articles and memo and relate it. And if they have been in existence, you need to look at their annual report, previous annual report, to see what is the primary nature of their business. That helps a lot because prevention starts from there. Another one is the management. You need to look at who is there. How many companies has he got? How many are successful? And who is he surrounded with? Can you believe him? Is he tested? What is his antecedent? So individual also matters to see whether you can get yourself involved with or not. People don't just look at that. They look at, is it going to bring more money to me? Okay, so many things you consider, okay, outside. Some I regard as qualitative, some also quantitative factors to address issues of prevention and detection. That is what I want to say.
Thank you, Prof. Olo. If we continue this discussion, maybe we need more 2 days. So I have to stop this discussion for a while. Maybe we can continue to Telegram or WhatsApp. Maybe we can share to other participants next. But we also enlighten from this discussion that forensic auditor, in my opinion, there are 3 steps that they had to follow: investigate, collecting evidence, and reporting. I think this is the most important from all of your presentation.
Yeah, there are 4. There are 4.
What is the
yes. Collecting plan and investigate. 2, collecting evidence. 3, reporting. 4, court proceeding. Court. Court proceeding. Then, sorry, the moderator, you said in your opinion, you are not a forensic anymore. You are an auditor. It's not like in my opinion. You are objective. Yes, you have to. The language is different. Yes.
I use your terms. I love that.
Once you use that expression, you're not talking as a forensic person. You are not. Yes,
Okay.
you are being subjective. In my opinion, it's subjective. So talk like a forensic person. This is what I see, objective. Okay?
Yes. I like the way the forensic auditor, objective.
Yes, yeah, very, 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 very.
Because it is
very,
very, very difficult, but we have to. But difficult.
It's very difficult, but not difficult if you have the knowledge, you have the skill and the right attitude.
Yeah, it is.
And the right attitude. Most of what we are saying about fraud is our attitude, our mindset. Even when you see people committing offense, you ignore it, you claim that it's not your money, it's government money. But it's government money that will affect all of us. Because if it is not stolen, it can be used for development. So we don't look at it. So our attitude at times affects us. And that is why I always advise clients in organizations to create an incentive for their staff. You may think it's not worth it. It's worth it. Give them a menu lunch fee. Lunch fee. You see, where they know that they are going to eat in the office, they will be 100% more honest to the business. They won't allow anybody to, because they know if you stop giving them the lunch fee because somebody has stolen, it's going to affect them. So many things we are encouraging organizations to do to their staff. There are some things you can provide so that fraud can be reduced. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. Olu. Guess I can see this is a professional webinar. Pak Masun, thank you very much for this opportunity. Ya, Pak Olu, Prof. Olu. This is
Thank
professional webinar.
Yeah, except I see one of us, Makan, and he didn't call us to come on Makan. Adia Maula is Makan. Is Makan, and I can see him Makan. Okay, just on a joking matter, when we are living, we have to joke over it. I appreciate and I thank Parmason for the invitation, and thank you, the moderator. You've done a lot, not very much, and I commend you. It takes us time to write, but within few seconds, few minutes, you were able to trash everything we have taken days to write. That is kudos to you too. As a moderator, it's not that easy, and thanks for the control of the participants, and I hope we're going to have good feedback from them. And I'm also saying I'm sorry if my tonation, the way I pronounce,
you are good.
Yes, we need to. Yeah, you need to accept. I'm not from that side, and if I didn't pronounce well or they didn't hear me, it's not intentional. But if they write me, I will write them. I thank you, Cape MP, APSAE, and others, and yourself and Parmason for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very welcome, Prof. Olu. Prof. Olu, finally we come to the end of this webinar. And one more thing that's very interesting from this discussion, that as objectivity is not difficult as long as we know how to do that, how to be objective. That's a good quotation today. Guys, all guests, this is all of our discussion today, and we will record and upload our discussion today at Pak Masun in our website. Yeah, soon in our website, www.apsai.com. But now it's under construction, but will be uploaded soon. Burida, are you there? Burida?
Okay, Bu, okay.
Since our discussion is finished, so I need to hand over this session to you. Thank you for this great opportunity. Thank you, Prof. Olu. give applause
Thank
for
you,
Pak
too.
Olo.
Thank you, too.
Thank you, Pak Masun. Purda,
Thank you very
time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dian.
Thank you.
Dian, thank you very much.
Silakan ditutup, Bu
Great
Rida.
insights. See you. And I think
Baik.
finish.
Okay.
Bu Rida, maybe you close this meeting.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Masun. Mohon maaf ini menggunakan iPad karena satunya lagi online juga. Aduh, hari yang padat kita beronline Ria. Baik, terima kasih Bapak Ibu peserta hari ini luar biasa sekali. Penjelasan yang sangat sistematis dari Prof. Olo, terima kasih. Bu Dian, terima kasih. Para peserta, terima kasih. Sampai jumpa di webinar berikutnya. Kami selaku mewakili Bapak pimpinan kami, Bapak Moh Masun, mengucapkan sekali lagi terima kasih untuk semuanya. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Olo.
Waalaikumsalam.
Please.
Kan sebelumnya digabung ya.
Bow, bow.